What's going on, everybody? Eric Lindquist at Stochastic here in the OddsShopper channel, coming to you with another edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks. It's Sunday. It's week 8. We're ready to rock. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell goes a long way for me. On this video goes a long way for you. That way you become a prize whenever great content is going live here at our little neck of the YouTube woods. I'm going to talk a little faster. I'm not going to get as in-depth because we have 14 games, and I'd be here for 45 minutes if I had my way. But you know what? I don't always have my way. But yeah, I do, because this is my show and I do what I want. But anyway, we got Tails. Tails, you can sign up for down below. Do you want to get all of my plays every single day? Well, Lindy 5-0. This is live until November 1st. We are cutting it off November 1st. I want you to be able to jump into that Discord. We got the World Series. I posted a lock in there. So far, only just the one bet, but feel pretty good about that lock. We'll see if it can come to fruition. 50% off. Lindy 5-0 to get all of the daily picks. That's $10 for your first week, $25 for your first month. And of course, the full gamut, the NFL goodness, all of these plays, including other plays that I guarantee you I'm not stopping research over the course of the weekend. I'm going to be firing up a lot of goodness. We have pick'em cards in there for DraftKings Pick 6, for Underdog, for Prize Picks as well. And in addition to that, we also have NBA going strong. Yes, NBA Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks is back. Well, we're posting a punch in there as well. There is so much to bet on, so little time. And, well, if you trust me, if you enjoy my content, and if I've made you money, which I'm pretty sure I have over the course of the last couple weeks, well, I would love to see you guys there. Come kick it. Alrighty, y'all. Without further ado, we've got, again, 14 games here on Sunday. We've got big question marks lingering, sitting around. We do have one lock, and it's on a spread. We also have like 3 consecutive rushing props in the middle of it. Whatever, I'll talk about it. Producer Jacob, hi, hello. It's Sunday. Well, it's actually Friday as I'm recording this. Let's get to the picks. And the Jets take on the New England Patriots as 7-point favorites. Obviously, we all saw Devontae Adams out there. Garrett Wilson had himself a little decent game. Breece Hall had himself a little decent game, but it didn't really come to fruition for the Jets. The Pittsburgh Steelers with Russell Wilson taking them down. As for New England, losing to Jacksonville is not ideal. We'll just put it that way. It was an awful football game. However, we've seen some good things from Drake May, right? Right? Oh yeah, no, we've seen some okay things from Drake May, but I was a little bit floored when I saw his passing yards prop. Why? Well, we don't see a lot of passing yard props against the Jets that are sitting north of 200, let alone a rookie quarterback with DeMario Douglas as his number 1 wide receiver, Hunter Henry as potentially his number 1 receiver, period, as far as pass catchers. I don't understand what some of these numbers are here on Drake May, and that's really because the Jets defense on the other side, they stifle passing games. It's not even like remotely close. They constantly find ways to be successful in that. Now, obviously, there's no Robert Saleh out there, so he's not coaching this football team. But even still, you'll look at the matchup, 151 yards passing per game here from the New England side of things. Drake May is going to be a passing improvement on Jacoby Brissett. I don't think there's any question about that. But you got to look at it just from looking down here. We got like Sauce Gardner out there going to be doing work. And there's just nothing that could stop me from betting either of these plays. I have a half unit on Drake May under 209.5 passing yards and Drake May over 0.5 interceptions. I think both of those make a ton of sense against a Jets defense. Say what you want about the offense. It's going to figure itself out. And New England, not the easiest place to figure it out. I'm also kind of surprised by this total, but Drake May have fun against the Jets. Next stop on our boarding walk, the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Both of these teams in very big needs of wins. Philly chasing Washington, and Washington's a dog at home. We'll be paying attention to that one for sure. We're going to be betting that one for sure as well. As for Cincinnati, T. Higgins popped up on the injury report out of nowhere. He's questionable with a quad. When did that happen? Oh yeah, it happened on Friday morning. That was stupid. I have him in like every year-long league, so I really need him to play football against an Eagles defense that I don't find to be that formidable in the secondary. I think that's kind of been something that we've discussed multiple times for multiple years. They've had some run good in terms of scheduling, and I think that that's kind of the main thing to take away from this one. Look at some of the strength of schedule here. Eagles, 30th in PFF grading. That's second easiest, well, third easiest in football. And I got to say, the Cincinnati Bengals, they're at 19th, so it's not markedly better, but offensively, they're the number 1 ranked offense on PFF grading, which I don't necessarily agree with, but there's no doubt passing game, electric, boogie, woogie, woogie. And I got to think Joe Burrow is going to be chucking it no matter what. However, I can't really find anything that I like here. We do have a little bit of an issue with the Cincinnati backfield where, Chase Brown is probably going to be your number one going forward. Zach Moss had that fumble at a very inopportune time. And I don't know. It feels like a spot for the Eagles where Devonta Smith has really low receiving yard props. Haven't fired any up yet, though, because Cincinnati's defense has looked a little bit better to me in recent weeks, and the data kind of goes to support that theory. God, I'm just going to throw two leans out if you really want them. The Joe Burrow 34.5 passing attempts, and then Jalen Hurts over 216.5 passing yards. If this game shoots out, which 47.5 total, pretty efficient, but that's a bigger total there. You'd think Jalen Hurts, 216.5 passing yards, with Saquon Barkley in his backfield. This doesn't feel like the Saquon spot where he's going to be able to just run for 170 plus like he did against the Giants. So I'm just throwing it out there. I think Jalen Hurts has to start airing it out a little bit more for this offense. Man, we've got like pairings going on. I didn't even realize it. I guess the Drake May one is two different plays from the same guy. Last one, there was a pairing. In this one, there is a common theory because I'm looking at Green Bay, I'm looking at Jacksonville. And one thing that's changed for Jacksonville in recent weeks, yeah, Brian Thomas continues to be pretty decent, but his production has been lackluster in the receiving yard department at times because Evan Ingram, he returned in London. This will be his first stateside game now. 3 games. Oh, this will be his 3rd game here. And he gets an awesome matchup here against a Packers team that has given up 384 yards through 7 weeks to the tight end position. Now, I'm just going to tell you, that's more than most teams if we're going to be averaging things out right around 10 yards per catch as well. But 51 targets, including 16 the Rams targeted at Colby Parkinson there in the course of that week 5 game. So I'm just throwing it out there. I think the tight end position is going to be a big factor here with Evan Ingram up against Green Bay. Green Bay should be able to get what they want on the ground with Josh Jacobs. He's the 3rd most likely person to score a touchdown in my modeling, which I find to be surprising because we have guys like Derrick Henry, and I'm just talking about the Sunday slate. I'm not talking Kyren Williams, who, well, wouldn't you know it, scored a touchdown against my Vikings. Let's not talk about that game, shall we? Derrick Henry is number 1. I kind of want to keep number 2 to myself for right now because that one's fun. Number 3, that being Josh Jacobs. Number 4, Joe Mixon. So if you're looking at anytime touchdown numbers, take those for what you will. Again, I do this every single week. But Tucker Kraft, I also think, over 360-yard receiving tight ends against Jacksonville. Green Bay has so many weapons on that side that it's almost hard to figure out who's going to go off on any specific week. But I do think the seam is going to be pretty open against Jacksonville. As you look at this defense, what teams have been doing successfully other than just like, I don't know, everything. I've got jokes. Anyway, I was waiting for my sheet to show up. Hines Allen's been awesome on the edge there, but in order to get the ball out of your hands fast and not have him be as much of a factor, and I do think the left tackle spot, not as strong here with Walker, Rasheed Walker there, as the main guy. He's good in terms of pass blocking at times, so that's why he's there for Jordan Love. But I think Jacobs will be able to get what he wants, but I really like Tucker Kraft there. If he can get worked into that seam there, what did we get? 55 snaps for him last time out? God, he's playing a ton. Musgrove has been sent to the Shadow Realm, so it is what it is. Give me the over on both of these. If you want to put them together in a single game parlay, I don't mind it. I don't mind the pick'em if you put them together here as well. I like correlated pick'em cards. On pick 6, you're able to fully correlate without any kind of disintegration, but opposite team, like the combination of these two, it shouldn't change your payout. Pretty quick and easy for me. Tennessee plus 11.5. Yeah, 11.5 points here up against Detroit, and there's arguments to be made that it should be closer to 13.5 because, Detroit goes down to the Cowboys, just slaughters them. They take on my Vikings in Minnesota, win a tough, hard-fought football game, come from behind mode there after the ridiculousness that was that defensive touchdown that we put up on the board. Jared Goff takes him on a little bit of a ride. That guy's been incredible for this football team. But we all know without Aiden Hutchinson that there's going to be a little bit of a different look. Does it matter, though, when you're taking on a team that you should be able to stop the run in Tony Pollard, who's been by far their best offensive player? And Calvin Ridley didn't practice again here. I don't know if he ends up playing in that event. Your number 1 wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans probably ends up being Nick Westbrook-Akina. What a time to be alive. My God. Yeah, the ground game should be interesting here on the other side because Tennessee's been pretty decent on the defensive side of the football. I'm not in love with this total, too. This total has been crashing down all week. I think that's been correct of the total to do. It's sitting at 44.5, 45, was sitting at 47 at open. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins is not there, so there's that. Calvin Ridley ends up popping up on the injury report. That's a big deal, even though he's not really involved behind Will Levis. And what are they doing? Mason Rudolph ended up starting the last two. Probably ends up starting going forward here. No matter what, though, friends, no matter what, just stay away from this football game unless you're going to bet Detroit. I would be laying the points if I did anything, but more than likely, just going to be paying attention to props. Probably nothing will show up there either. We have Lindy 5-0 going right now to sign up for Tails for 50% off. But in the event that you want to get it completely free, there is a link down in the video description box below. And you can sign up for any one of these partners on our screen. On the left side, you see the pick'em sites, Underdog, Vivid, Pick Six, Better, Sleeper. On the right side, you see all the sports books, FanDuel, BetMGM, DraftKings, Caesars, Bet365. They've done a great job. They've talked to me. They basically said, you know what? If anybody signs up here, we'll make sure we'll pay you the cost of somebody joining Lindy's Premium Tails package. Well, that's a $50 value coming to you in addition to all of the insane sign-up bonuses. Now, one of the big things about playing the DFS on the pick'em sites or, betting at a sports book is that you want to have exposure to as many places as possible so that you can line shop. So you can play this here where the number's too low or that there where the number's too high. You always want to have exposure to more of these rather than fewer of them. And now you'll also get a month of me in order to help you out on every single one. If you have questions, DM me, hit me up. I'm playing everywhere every single day. Would love to have you along for the ride. Again, here's the 4 steps you have to follow in order to be able to take advantage of that deal. You simply find the promo, sign up, deposit, place a bet, take a screenshot of your welcome email and first settled bet, and then email support@oddshopper.com. With those screenshots, you'll get me for free for a month. Sound great? I think it does. Alrighty, y'all, back to the picks. Atlanta, Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay, they look different, wouldn't you say? Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, they will be out. Mike Evans will be back, it sounds like, after the bye, which I think is like week 10, week 11 for them. And then Atlanta, well, they're just going to continue to try to run the football with Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson and let Kirk Cousins once in a while air it out for 500-plus yards like he did in the last matchup between these two teams. It ended up being an insane primetime football game. And, hey, primetime Kirk Cousins been brushing the dust off. You got to kick that dirt off your shoulder, son. And then you put on the gold chain and you go on the plane and you live your life because you got to know. I threw a lot of references into one right there. But let's reference this. I don't find scoring to be all that interesting in this one. It is in Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay's defense can be serviceable. Atlanta, well, I think they're all right themselves, but I'm just throwing it out there. Jalen McMillan, Trey Palmer, and of course, Sterling Shepard, former teammate at Oklahoma of Baker Mayfield. These are not the guys that you want to have be your 1, 2, and 3 wide receivers. I think there's going to be major issues moving the football there. As for Tampa, I think they're going to be able to do some stuff to stop some of that Tyler Algier-ness, some of that Bijan Robinson-ness. I think Drake London's kind of an interesting guy, too, in this football game. I'm having a tough time pulling the trigger on any of his props because, again, we have 14 games on Sunday. I got a lot of units spread all the way around, and at the moment, I do think offensively this Falcons team looks a lot better. They're 4-3, 3-4 against the spread. Buccaneers 4-3, 4-3 against the spread. Find them to be interesting setups here in this one. But overall, Bijan Robinson is going to be able to stretch the field, I think, enough in the passing game. However, I don't find Tampa Bay keeping pace in this one. Thought about the Tampa Bay, shorting them here, maybe going to Atlanta, but ended up on the under of this football game. Under 46. I like it. I love it. I don't want any more of it, just a half unit. Oh boy, Baltimore taking on Cleveland. 44.5 total, lower than we've seen for Baltimore in quite some time. They've been playing a lot of games in the 50s, and defensively, we saw some things. Well, they hurt a lot of guys on the Tampa Bay side. That was kind of a bummer. Mike Evans, he kind of hurt himself. It was a hamstring after a touchdown catch. Tough breaks. But Baltimore, they're the best team in the NFL. I've said that here for a while, where I just kind of feel that way. Kansas City, offensively, they're starting to get some pieces. Again, we'll see how much Hopkins has left in the tank for him. Kelsey getting more intertwined. Juju Smith-Schuster going to be out for that one. But defensively, they're so good. A lot better than I think Baltimore's defense is. But when you have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson running the football the way that they're capable of, and then Lamar stretching the field with Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers, who have definitely exceeded expectations. That's why you're seeing Lamar Jackson up there with Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be another interesting MVP race. What's the voter what is it? Voter recency bias. That's the word I'm looking for, or two words that I'm looking for. I think it's going to be an interesting one. As for Cleveland, fun story, really fun story with Nick Chubb coming back. I'm excited to see Jameis Winston at the helm. Back in his Tampa Bay days, the guy set interception records at the same time that he was setting touchdown marks. I mean, it was just, you get the good with the bad with Jameis Winston, and he has settled down his gameplay in some extent. I mean, you saw him for like stints in preseason with New Orleans, and at times he would come in for a snap here, snap there. We saw interesting, a little bit more playing it close to the chest. There was an injury up in a Green Bay game that I remember where he ended up going into that game for New Orleans, and it was far more conservative Jameis Winston. I'm not sure what to expect here, but the books, I think at 8.5, I mean, this is just disgusting because I'm looking at minus 410 on the money line. We pulled this trick and got nice plus money last week against Tampa on the road. Not getting the same thing on the road in Cleveland. It's minus 171, best available line when you combine Derrick Henry anytime touchdown with the Baltimore money line. I don't think that juice is worth the squeeze. Would probably be looking to combine it with another play on the card if I end up pulling the trigger on this. But man, it's sad times. That was just the money-making way to go here for the last 4 or 5 weeks. And you combine these two, you put $1 and get a car, put $1 and get a car, put $1 and get a car, put $1 and get a car. Another team with injury quarterback situation, Tyler Huntley, he's out. Oh yeah, but they get Tua Tagovailoa back for Miami. That's why they're 4-point favorites at home, taking on Arizona, the Desert Birds. Now, the Desert Birds, an interesting little football win against the Chargers. They found ways to shut down the run. It was a little bit surprising to me, but I said it at the onset of the show, and you were listening at the top of the show, right? Right, good. I have 3 rushing yard props in a row here, all on the overs. Now, one thing I like to do, and one thing I've talked a lot about on this program and in other programs, is you're going to see more overs on here than what you're typically going to see if you have like portfolio EV. If you're looking at the OddsShopper, the top bets that we have there, where it's going to be a lot of unders. And why is that? Well, because for me, I think the analysis giving you 3 days before, a lot of those numbers, people like to bet their mores. They're going to take them up to a place where you no longer want to bet them, and then you can short it. Just tends to be the way that it goes about for like 70-80% of the unders that I put into play. They're going to be closer to first kick. However, these are going to be 3 straight overs, so I'll just take back everything I said, and here we go. We're going to start with Devon Achane because I do think Raheem Mostert's fumble. Now, he's got familiarity with McDaniel going back to San Francisco, but since coming over there, Raheem Mostert's kind of been the thorn in the side of every other running back that's been along there. Sometimes Jeff Wilson, sometimes Devon Achane. Once he got intertwined into the mix there, it was like week 4, week 3 last season, and then ran amok during his entire rookie season, his rookie campaign. But I feel pretty good about Devon Achane here. 54.5 rush yards. We jammed it against Indy. Felt good about that read. They should have ran the ball more. I think 12, 13 rushing attempts. With Tua Tagovailoa here, everybody's props look better. Everybody's rushing expectation looks better. The offense just looks better. But Arizona, 29th in EPA against the run, and yet we're getting 54.5, only a 7 rushing yard increase from last week, where it was sitting at open 44.5 for what it's worth. I was on that over as well. But we're going to run Devon Achane back here. I think he has a big second half of the season if Tua Tagovailoa can just stay healthy. Indy taking on Houston in this one, the last game of the morning window of games. Holy crap, 20 minutes in. Hit that like button for me if you could. Anthony Richards he's just been downright abysmal as a quarterback. I don't know what to say at this point in time. They'd be way better off. I said this at the beginning of the year too, where it's like Joe Flacco, there's probably going to be whisperings at some point this season for him to start. Well, it took an immediate injury, just like running quarterback, Anthony Richardson, but with a passer rating clean, 67.3 passer rating, under pressure, sub 40. I mean, we're talking one of the worst quarterbacks in the entire league right now, throwing the football out, especially with Deshaun Watson on the shelf. Notice how I didn't even bring him up earlier because, well, we just shouldn't even talk about him. CJ Stroud, on the other hand, very good in both circumstances there. Not going to be great from a fantasy perspective here and there. Nico Collins still on the shelf, so you got to pay attention to that one. But Michael Pittman is questionable on the Colts side. That one's interesting to me. I think Indy's going to just try to run the football incessantly in this football game with Jonathan Taylor back. I don't expect any workload concerns. He is off of the injury report entirely. And rushing defense-wise, passing defense-wise, Houston, they've been limiting opposing offenses quite a bit. 277 total yards per game, 110 that they've been allowing on the ground per game. But The improvement from what we had earlier with Trey Sermon, with Tyler Goodson, and now changing that into Jonathan Taylor cannot be exemplified enough. Now, is there a chance that we see any kind of a workload limitation where maybe they go to like 65, 60% of snaps for Taylor? Sure, but he's been on bubble wrap for a while. They've been cautious with him. I think you definitely want to be early to the party on low numbers like this, 61.5 rushing yards. This is too low for a bell cow back. He's been paid as a bell cow back. He shall be a bell cow back, even in inefficient game scripts here where, you know, there's issues. Guy averages 4.8 yards per carry. Let's limit that down to 4. How many carries does he need in order to get it? 1, carry the 2, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, he's going to get there. The 17 carries times 4. There we go. Carry the 1. 60 would be 4, 15. Yeah, he's going to get 16 carries. He's going to average 4 yards per carry, and we're going to cash this. Sorry that my mental math just crapped out there. New Orleans, new shiny thing, taking on the Chargers, and I almost locked this. I almost locked it. The third straight rushing prop that we're going to be firing up, and no, it's not going to be Alvin Kamara here with Spencer Rattler starting again for New Orleans. They've been looking abysmal week in, week out. You have to pay attention to a little bit of what we got going on here on the New Orleans side, but Cedric Wilson's going to be out, and he was the number one there in that spot. 6 catches, 57 yards, and a tutty against Denver in the game that didn't matter because they were trailing the whole way until that touchdown occurred. Chris Olave expected back here, but with Rashid Shaheed on the shelf, my God, this offense looks, what's the opposite of dynamic? Anti-dynamic? Non-dynamic? Undynamic? None of those will be J.K. Dobbins here in this spot. J.K. Dobbins, have you seen what New Orleans has done defensively in the last few games? Because in case you didn't notice, in case you failed to see, this is my heart bleeding for you. This is me down on my knees. And these foolish games, Denver, 225 yards rushing allowed, 277 yards rushing allowed to guys like Sean Tucker, who played himself into a job because of the New Orleans Saints. 139, 88, 172 against Philly. I mean, my dear sweet Lord Almighty. The Saints have issues stopping the run. And now we get Justin Herbert, who he can still sling it if called upon to do so. But this is going to be the inverse of what we saw last week. I was pretty high on J.K. Dobbins last week. I am very, very, very much higher on J.K. Dobbins this week. I will be looking at ladders. I will be looking at everything I possibly can. The Chargers at home with Harbaugh at the helm and a healthy J.K. Dobbins through the first couple of weeks of the season. My goodness. Couldn't love this one more. I've got this at 102. Again, I didn't lock it because the mean and the median are two different things. And I'm still a little bit worried about J.K. Dobbins, but I'm probably going to end up laddering this. So take that for what you will. Take this too, my friends. Bet 5, get 200 in bonus bets at Bet365. Damn good file. I want to stock it to you one more time. Go to the video description box below. Get yourself some goodness. If you're in one of these states on your screen right now, Colorado, Louisiana, why am I listing these off? Oh, I just want to say North Carolina, come on and raise up. Take your shirt off, twist around your head, spin it like a helicopter. And in Pennsylvania, well, you just got Bet365. Why don't you sign up over there? Get yourself $200 in bonus bets. Alrighty, y'all, back to the picks. Yep, we started that last game with the afternoon slate. We're going to continue on the afternoon slate in a game where I'm going to throw a lean like at you. I can't believe I haven't bet this yet. I should probably bet this now, but there's something that just tells me that against Seattle's secondary, we're going to see some spots where there's just like artificial people betting overs on passing yard props. Why is that? Well, against Atlanta, 230 allowed. Against San Francisco, 255. Against the Giants, 245. Against Detroit, 273. Now, all of those are coming by way of a quarterback, and now we have Josh Allen listed at 234. I have no idea how we'll arrive at that number. Yes, Amari Cooper is there, and Seattle on the other side, we do have to wait on some injury news. Kenneth Walker was sick. He had a rumbly in his tumbly last time out. First time we saw Zach Charbonnet alongside Kenneth Walker get more of those snaps, but DK Metcalf is doubtful. I think we're going to be stepping into some Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyler Lockett, and Jake Bobo, who ends up being that wide receiver 3 for them in a lot of circumstances. I'm paying attention to Fanta, don't you want to? Noah Fant. He will definitely be somebody to look at anytime touchdowns on as well. That seems to be the Geno Smith way. But Josh Allen, 234.5 passing yards is a gigantic, schmantic number here. I think that's way too much here. Yes, you got Amari Cooper. Yes, you have Khalil Shakira back in your life, but I can't get behind this. The modeling, the data is telling me everything inside of me needs to pull the trigger on this under, and yet there's a part of me that thinks 234.5 turns into like 237, 238 if I just sit, wait, and wish. That's Jack Johnson. But 234.5 passing yards. I like the under, but I'm going to wait to bet it closer to kickoff. This one's kind of a surprising number to me. We've got Chicago. The NFC North is out of control. We'll put it that way. The best division in football, weird to think. Green Bay, Chicago, Detroit. I mean, it's just insane. My Minnesota Vikings, obviously, but they're 3-point favorites taking on Washington. And Washington, all they've done is kind of answer the bell. I mean, they just look better and better. And Jaden Daniels, there's no doubt that I think he was the absolute have to have it, need to look back on it and probably remorse for everything that you've done wrong in your entire life draft pick. I mean, Jaden Daniels is that guy. But the Bears are 5-1 against the spread this season. That's closing spreads for what it's worth. I always like to throw that in there. They have the 5th best defense in PFF grading. They have the 6th best defense in my modeling. We have the Commanders on the other side, 5-2, 5-1-1 against the spread. Again, closing line numbers. Something's got to give in this football game. And whenever I see two teams that match up, where both of them have been very good in surpassing expectations. That's kind of what an against the spread is, where, there's a landed number by the public or by books. And, well, either one of them is incorrect about a team over the course of a long period of time. Now, a team can be behind them, but Washington, this is like an interesting one to me where I think you just snag the points in these kind of situations almost every single time. I get nervous because, again, there's better chances of this dipping to 2.5 on the Chicago side. And for those who don't know, it's really advantageous. If you can get money at a +3 and you can get a 2.5, you can basically play VIG free. So this is at -115 with the Washington side. It's got me a little bit queasy. I don't love it as much as what I was looking at before, but redid some of the looks at it. And Washington's defense, I think, is still serviceable. I think everybody's still staying there. And obviously the Jaden Daniels not playing potentially, that's kind of an issue here. But Marcus Mariota went out and slung it when he went out with that rib issue. We'll see if Daniels ends up suiting up for this one. That is a huge lingering Q tag. Again, if he ends up out, we're going to see this dip inside of that, or we're going to see it go north. We're going to see it go to 3.5, 4. If you get Daniels playing, it's going to dip. And maybe I buy in some Chicago money, but as of right now, I think he's more likely to play. He limited capacity practice on Friday. I have no idea where this line is going to move. Let's be honest. Know where this line's moving. It's Denver all the way. 10.5 points. This got ballooned from 7.5 to 10.5 because Andy Dalton got in a car accident, which is just insane. This is very reminiscent of the Cam Newton car accident, if people remember that. I can't remember. Was it like Chase Anderson who played quarterback in the backup situation for that? All I know is I had Cam Newton on my fantasy team that year. This was like mid 2010s. I don't know. But Andy Dalton got in a car accident. Haven't seen a whole lot else other than Bryce Young is starting this football game, because that's really all I can gauge anything off of. And Bryce Young has been downright abysmal. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the public just ran wild with this, as they should have, up to 10.5. As I record this on Friday, I can't really get behind 10.5 with Denver's offense. Now, Bo Nix is definitely looking like a spot where he should shine. If Bo Nix doesn't have a decent game in this spot, I mean, I don't really know what to tell you. He's had some pretty serviceable games against Vegas, against the Chargers. New Orleans didn't really have to do a whole hell of a lot. They were just up from the jump in that one, 33-10 slacking. But 5 tutties, 5 interceptions. This is like the stat stuffer spot. Going up against Carolina, I have them ranked as the worst defense in football. It's not barely. They're a lot worse than I think Indy, although Indy's rush defense is a whole nother ball of wax. Carolina, Xavier Legette. Deontay Johnson probably good to go here in this one. He's out for this one, but probably sees very little work here. I just basically am looking at Cortland Sutton here as the main guy. We get plus 200 type numbers. I know he did not get targeted. I know he didn't even get looked at. I know Bo Nix and him were just no, nobody was fighting. It was just a game script where they ran the ball down New Orleans' throats, and we hope J.K. Dobbins does the same thing. But I think Cortland Sutton anytime touchdown is at least interesting when you're getting better than plus 200 against Carolina. If you're not, this is a terrible football game to bet. And to my favorite play of the day, we're going to Kansas City and the Vegas Raiders here. 9-point favorites. 9-point favorites, Kansas City. Now it's 9, it's 9.5. Those are the two predominant numbers. Now this got bet from the 10.5 into the 9.5 and 9 numbers, and I am very surprised. But I will be a proud part of the buyback here for a number of different reasons. First off, this is a Kansas City Chiefs team that is adding DeAndre Hopkins, and I don't know what to make of that. You have no Juju Smith-Schuster, but outside of that, I know that we have Rashee Rice on the IR, which is a big deal. I know we have Isaiah Pacheco on the IR, which is a big deal, but defensively, they're pretty darn healthy. I mean, Dana is going to be out on the edge, but like everybody else is in for that defense. And if that defense stays healthy, I mean, they are one of the best defenses in football, if not the best defense in football. I've got them ranked number 2. I'm trying to even think of who number 1 is here. Again, I have to go through each team on my Excel spreadsheet. We're not going to do that. We're also going to talk a little bit about what Warren Sharp posted here over on X. Give him a shout out. Warren Sharp, Sharp Analytics. I mean, most people know who he is at this point in time. He's got the mustache. He's a really nice guy. Seems like it, but a pretty sharp guy when it comes to the old football streets, and talked about some of the officiating going on in this one because Patrick Mahomes, Antonio Pierce, head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, was talking about how he wanted to give Patrick Mahomes the Michael Jordan treatment in games. What does that mean? Means that you brush up and you elbow him. He went on a podcast and basically talked about how he wants to rough up Mahomes, make him uncomfortable, sit on him a little bit longer when he's down on the ground, just do all of that like antics BS. Well, they ended up bringing in the number 1, yes, the number 1 official in terms of calls over the last 3 years in terms of roughing the passer penalties. It's pretty insane. Not to bring handicapping and referees together into one tight little mix, but yeah, you don't want to probably treat the prized possession of the Kansas City Chiefs like crap because, well, he matters a lot to the NFL. But I want to go a step further. Davante Adams no longer a part of the Raiders. That is a big deal, but there are also going to be, he is not the only piece that is going to be sent out on a rail here over the course of the next few weeks because there is a very good chance, and I was talking about this with producer Jacob before the show, Max Crosby. Could he be your Aiden Hutchinson replacement? Detroit has everything going for them in the NFC. They have the best offensive line. They have the best running game. Jared Goff is not just a game manager. He can stretch a field. Jamison Williams, when he isn't gambling and doing drugs, is pretty good at football. And of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a noticeable number 1 who is always open. But on the defensive end, you do have some warts in the secondary, and it was basically all being filled up by Aiden Hutchinson. I don't think Max Crosby plays in this football game. He is questionable with a leg injury. That is a big deal. You have Jacoby Myers, who is questionable. This could be Trey Tucker as a number 1 wide receiver yet again, which is just absolutely asinine. And you're getting the best team in football, reigning back-to-back Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs at 9 against it. I take it every single time. I don't think twice. I don't know where or how or why 10.5 moved to 9, but I'm happy to take it. I thought 10.5 sounded like a pretty damn good number to begin with. 10.5, 11, I'd probably be, I'd be entertaining it. But at 9, getting through 10 and getting to here, lock it up every single time. Favorite play. Again, weird to have it happen in the NBA back-to-back days. Now Kansas City, my favorite play, a spread. What a time to be alive. And Sunday Night Football rounds out our show. Oh, hit that like button. 35-minute marathon, 14 games. Smash it. Not a lot to give you here because there are tons of injuries waiting in the wings here. One of them is not CeeDee Lamb, who should be a squeaky wheel to some extent here. I expect a big performance sooner rather than later out of Dallas in this offense. Otherwise, they're going to have to start packing it in. But Dak Prescott got paid. CeeDee Lamb got paid. Ezekiel Elliott got paid a while ago, and that was a mistake. And now he is being paid absolutely nothing to be on this team. But Rico Dowdle's still there. They need a running back. I don't know really what they're doing, but I guess they're just kind of tapped out at this point in time. As for football, like this specific spot, look at all the injuries on the Cowboys side. Micah Parsons, questionable. Tyrone Smith, questionable. That's gigantic. Kendricks, questionable with an arm. Those 3 specifically huge because Lawrence still out. Cook's still out on the offensive end. And yeah, Mr. Lawrence, DeMarcus Lawrence. As for the 49ers side, Nick Bosa, questionable. George Kittle, questionable. Juwan Jennings, questionable. Deebo Samuel, questionable. Jordan Mason, questionable. How do we even handicap this football game? If you made me, I think most of the San Francisco guys play. I have questions about if Micah Parsons plays or not. He's the most important player on either team to either side. Actually, I don't know if that's true. San Francisco has a million guys who matter. Normally, I'm just a Williams stan, so I'll probably go with him. But anyway, what I'm looking at is 3.5 or 4, potentially laying it with San Francisco. And then CeeDee Lamb, over 6.5 receptions, squeaky wheel narrative, San Francisco secondary, defense that's pretty well intact. However, We're talking about coming off of a bye. Dallas just needs to get the ground actually through the air. And that does it for another edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks. You know what to do. Go to that comment section below. Let me know your favorite plays that exist on the board for this lovely little slate that we have before us here. 14 games on Sunday. Hopefully my wife doesn't ask me to do any chores. That's for sure. Lindy50, get 50% off all of my picks. That is super easy enough. There's also those sponsors that you can sign up at the video description box below. If you do that, you get me completely free. That seems like fun too. So check out Tails. That is the marketplace that you want to check us all out at. Tons of great guys in there. DK, DFS, Donuts. I absolutely defy the odds. Love everybody that I'm working with, that we are firing up bets together at Tails. Alrighty, y'all, let's get the heck up out of here. Thank you, producer Jacob. Until next time, I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck in the NFL streets on Sunday.